Have you guys seen the best robot vacuum on the market yet? I sure have. In this video, I'm going to talk a lot because we have a lot to share. But of course, there will be tests too. I'll show you obstacle avoidance, vacuuming, mopping, everything this vacuum can do. And obviously, I'll also talk a little bit about the app. What I won't talk about is the unboxing and accessories, because I've already made a quick video about that, which I'll link up here. Click on it up there, check it out. You can see how I unboxed it and what accessories come with it. I'll get started with the main part, meaning the specs, what this machine can do, and what's in the unboxing. And well, this won't be short either. Let's start with the fact that the base unit has a massive suction power of 12,000 pascals, which is insanely high among robot vacuums. It has a 5,000 mAh capacity battery. The manufacturer says it can clean about 200 square meters on a single charge. Obviously, this will largely depend on what cleaning mode we choose, because there will be a few modes. So, it will depend on which one you select. What else is important to know about this machine? It clearly has a laser sensor on top, and what's really interesting is what's visible here up front. There are two cameras here, RGB, meaning color cameras, and since there are two of them placed apart, they can see in 3D, creating a three-dimensional image with highly advanced object recognition. That's one of the machine's big specialties. The manufacturer claims it has artificial intelligence object recognition, and the tests have shown it really does. But more on that later. The point is, there are these two object recognition cameras at the front, and the top laser is also suitable for object recognition. The manufacturer says this robot can identify objects left lying on the floor and recognize them, but it can also use laser scanning to map out furniture. It will recognize our furniture, so it will know where our sofa, bed, TV, and things like that are. For example, and thousands of other things. These sound like insanely amazing capabilities. I obviously had to try this out as well, and later I'll tell you how well they worked. It's also very important to mention that this device is a mopping robot vacuum, which means it doesn't have the usual simple mop. Instead, it has these crazy spinning mops that clean the floor. Naturally, the machine can lift these mops and then press them back onto the floor. If I remember correctly, the mop presses down with 6 Newton meters while spinning, but when it reaches a carpet, it can lift the mop so the carpet won't get mopped. This vacuum has an incredibly advanced mapping function. Of course, it can handle multiple maps and can be used in a multi-story house. Let's switch over a bit to the app and mapping. I'll tell you more about it, and meanwhile, you'll see what the app looks like and how to use it. I'm not starting with the mapping in the app demonstration, but rather the software modes, because the name of this machine is Narwal Freo. The Freo, just like in the case of the cheaper one, it essentially means a smart mode. When you turn on the Freo mode automatically adjusts the suction power, mopping, water level, and everything else, because this machine can detect the type of surface it's on. So it not only recognizes carpet, but also stone floors, wooden floors, laminate, and various surfaces. It can sense and detect. But it not only detects this, it also senses how dirty the floor is. It has a dust sensor that recognizes how much dirt it sucks up. And with its cameras and 3D sensors, it can literally see the dirt on the floor. In Freo mode, this means this machine functions completely automatically, setting everything up without us needing to do anything. You just start it and you'll hear it being a bit louder here, a bit quieter there. However, With every vacuuming mode, you can turn off Freo mode and switch to manual, where you can set how the vacuum cleans. There's obviously multiple levels of suction power, multiple levels of water usage, and you can choose if you want it to go over a certain area 1, 2, or 3 times. But that's not all, because we can even set a cleaning mode for each room in our apartment. There's simple vacuuming, there's simple mopping, meaning just mopping, there's vacuuming and mopping, and there's vacuuming followed by mopping. So the last one means it goes around the apartment, vacuums everything, and once that's done, it goes around again and mops everything. Now, with this machine, you can select a specific room and choose what kind of vacuuming mode you want to use for that specific room. It can be a predefined mode, of course, but if you don't want that, you can set different suction powers, different water amounts, different cleaning frequencies for each room. For example, you could mop one room once, mop another room twice, vacuum the third room twice, and mop it once. You have 1,000,001 options. It's incredibly good. I really like this feature because essentially it allows you to customize cleaning for each room from one end to the other. And these are just the software capabilities, and there's also the mapping I mentioned, and this mapping is also incredibly amazing. On the map, the robot already draws out our furniture, marks the toilet, and if it finds cables or other things, it notes that for the owner. But if it doesn't recognize something, we can also add it in the map editor. We can draw in a sofa or the dog's water bowl or anything really, or the cat's bed. And we can manually draw 1,000,000 static items so the vacuum knows they are there and what they are. But what's even more interesting is that the vacuum actually thinks. At least it obviously thinks to some extent, recognizing what purpose the room serves. For example, since it found the couch in the living room, it identified it as the living room. It found the double bed in the bedroom and labeled it the bedroom. It found the long rug in the hallway and instantly called it the hallway. And it identified the toilet in the bathroom, calling it the bathroom. Well, it called it the toilet, but obviously it's a bathroom. This machine literally thinks and makes deductions, and based on its deductions, it organizes the map. Speaking about the software and thinking, the manufacturer claims that in this vacuum, it's a decision-making system, and at first it seems like an incredibly pretentious thing, but if you think about it, it's really not, because the robot can automatically adjust the suction power and the water. It sees the furniture, it sees everything. It recognizes obstacles on the ground, so it has all the data it needs to decide what cleaning mode to use in a given area to make sure that cleaning mode is appropriate. As I said, of course, you can override it because you might be smarter than your vacuum. And this whole thing about recognizing the suction power, seeing everything, recognizing obstacles on the ground. But by default, you don't need to. You just set it down, start it, and it goes. And these are just the capabilities of the vacuum. And even from this, there are millions and millions. So I'm telling you right now, don't rely on this video if you want to get to know the machine. On YouTube, under the video, you'll find a link to the written article. I recommend you definitely read it because I wrote that article for about 4 days and I complemented it with lots of details. For 4 days, I just kept adding new paragraphs so that no data or experience is missing. So look up the link and read it because I think it's worth it. Now, let's switch gears a bit from the vacuum to the docking station, which looks incredibly nice. It's massive. On top, which you can see here, there's a display for remote control of the robot. You can send it back to the docking station or start cleaning, among other things. But that's not the main point, of course. The main thing is that there is a removable magnetic panel on it that we can take off. Behind the magnetic panel, we find the absurdly large dust bag which the manufacturer claims can hold several months' worth of dirt. And I need to detail a bit here about how a bag can hold multiple months' worth of dirt. Well, the solution is relatively simple, but not really, as there's a quite special dust container built into this machine. This dust container is made up of several sections. From the top, it looks like a completely normal dust container. From the front, it looks just like a normal dust container. There's a hole here, and we have a HEPA filter here. It still looks the same as a regular dust container. But if I turn it like this, you might notice that it's not one container, but two. There's this colored section and this white section, and we actually get one spare white section too. I'm not sure what could go wrong with it, but we do get a spare one, so we have a backup for the machine. From the descriptions I saw, this white section is for when the vacuum sucks in the dirt. It compacts the dirt in this white section, and when this part fills up, the duct sucks out the already compacted dirt into the dust bag. And because it's compacted when it goes into the dust bag, it can hold a lot more dirt than a dust bag in a similar machine could normally hold. These are really smart and clever solutions that I absolutely love about these machines. As you can see, under the lid there's not much. We have the dust container, there's a reset button, and that's about it under the cover. These buttons are visible even with the lid on. One button is the power button, and the other is for sending the vacuum home. Let's get back to the dock, because there's something really interesting I need to mention. It's this container at the top, and it holds scented floor cleaner, which the vacuum mixes into the container. We need to put water into this container, and it cleans the mops with this scented water below. Now, when the vacuum docks, the machine dispenses the cleaner totally automatically, so we don't have to worry about adding it to the water. It does it all by itself, which is a really nice feature. There's a little window where you can see on the side. So when the machine is on, this little window glows greenish blue with liquid flowing through it, and when it adds the cleaner, bubbles rise up and it looks amazing, a bit futuristic. I also need to mention, by the way, that this tray is really easy to clean because it's inside. I've already given it a quick clean. It's still a bit wet. There's an extra tray here where the mop is rinsed. These two, let me show you closer on these little knobs in the tray. The mop spins, and this is where the water comes from the tank, and the vacuum sucks the water back into the dirty water tank after cleaning the mop. Now, since we're talking about cleaning the mop, there's a very important thing I must mention, that this machine not only washes the mop during and after cleaning, but it also dries it. This doesn't sound like such a big deal yet, as most similar machines with mops and the more advanced and expensive robots can also do drying. It's not that crazy, although it's something, but that's not the point. What's important is that with this machine you can set how hot the air should be to dry the mop. And you can set how hot the water should be to wash the mop. So it's not just about putting water in the tank with cold water in it, and it will just wash it in that. No. Here, the water flows out of the tank, the machine heats it up, washes the mop in warm water, and then when the whole cleaning is done, it dries the mop with warm air. And you can set the temperature of the air, and they say in the manual that the heat can get so high with both the water and the drying air that it actually sterilizes, completely disinfects the mop after cleaning. I have nothing to say to that. This is already the ultimate feature, or I don't know how else to put it in a better way. It's just that they thought of things I never would have. Now, one more thing about the machine before we move on to cleaning. And this thing is a super cute little feature you can see on the side of the machine. It's this little furry thing. It looks just like the wind guard on microphones, exactly the same material, but of course, its role is not to protect from wind, but its role is that as the vacuum goes along the furniture and the wall, it spins nicely, and with this little brush, it literally sweeps off the dust from the edge of the wall, the bottom, the border, the chair legs, basically everywhere. And you can see it's designed so that when it's moving along the part next to the wall, so not in the middle of the room, then the machine goes alongside the wall so that with its little brush, it can sweep the dirt. Yeah, honestly, it's mind-blowing. I can't say anything else about it. It's one of those things I probably never would have thought of. But this machine has such capabilities and is so prepared for work that let's move on. Let's get to the tests, the real tests, and see what this machine can do. I've carried out several tests. It was really important for me to test obstacle avoidance, because the last time obstacle avoidance was really the best, at least in my experience, was in a dreamy vacuum cleaner from several years ago. In the meantime, I've also had a Roborock vacuum cleaner worth 370,000 forints, but it failed all my tests. I put out cables, mixed things up, put out Lego bricks, Duplo bricks, and it pushed everything around and even sucked up the Lego bricks. Even though it had obstacle recognition, optical, laser, and all sorts of sensors, the Roborock didn't understand the thing when it came to obstacle recognition. After that, I was extremely curious to see what this machine can do, because they promised that it would recognize and handle everything, and even though these obstacles are dynamic, meaning they appear in the room while cleaning, it would still recognize and avoid them. I conducted several tests. Put down Duplo bricks, which are slightly larger plastic bricks. Put down Lego bricks, which are smaller plastic bricks. And thirdly, lay down cables. Now, the Duplo test was basically perfect. I built small towers with Duplo bricks and also just put down a single brick to keep them low. And this test was essentially perfect, with only a tiny mistake. When the vacuum went past one of the bricks, one of the side brushes slightly nudged the brick. Really, that's it. Otherwise, it was completely perfect, regardless of whether the brick was by the wall or in the middle of the room. Everything was avoided, the route was planned, it was also well done, so it was really good. The Lego wasn't as good, but actually the problem was caused by the fact that one of the Lego bricks was almost the same color as the floor and was tiny. So I suspect that even with the 1080p camera that's up front, two of them, it wasn't enough. For some reason, the this Lego brick wasn't detected, maybe because of the size or the color. I couldn't really decide, but it didn't recognize it and pushed it away. However, it perfectly saw the colorful bricks, especially the ones that weren't just one piece but two stacked on each other, and it avoided them perfectly. There was also an issue where it got a bit too close to some bricks and nudged them slightly with the side brush, but I don't think it's a huge problem. Then came the cable test, which is always a crucial issue for me because I hate those robot vacuums that eat the cables I leave on the floor. It doesn't eat the cables. It avoids the cables so precisely. It's unbelievable. Even when I placed the cable a bit in an arc, it tried to go into the middle of the arc to clean there, but it didn't wrap itself around, didn't go over, didn't eat them. The cable stayed there just as I left it on the floor. And also during mapping, when it found cables in the apartment, it marked them on the map. It didn't matter if it was a charging cable by the bed or a 220-volt cable from an extension cord. It recognized and marked each perfectly on the map that there's a cable there. It's so detected and considered. The obstacle avoidance is simply amazing. So the mapping, the obstacle recognition, the intelligence in this machine, it's just fantastic. It truly does everything it promised and caused zero disappointment. So now let's move on to cleaning, because this machine can mop and vacuum very effectively. The first test I did with it was mopping because I was really curious about how well it could mop. And well, I kind of messed up the test because I used dirt, jam, and ketchup for the test. Now with the dirt, the shiraga, there wasn't any issue. I just spread a bit of soil on the floor, sprayed water on it, and let the vacuum handle the sticky mess. Then I squeezed ketchup from a bottle and splattered some jam with a spoon, thinking it would be a good test. And there was no issue with the dirt. It must have recognized it was flat. It went over it, cleaned it up, the dirt disappeared from the floor, leaving nothing behind. They started cleaning the edge of the jam and then went around it, spreading it a little without even bothering with the ketchup. Because as I realized, I probably squeezed too much in one spot. And they saw it as an obstacle. On one hand, that's definitely negative because they didn't clean up the ketchup. But on the other, it's positive because the probability is that they treat a pile of dog food the same way by not going over it and not spreading it all around the house. So I started spreading the stuff around the floor by hand, and when it was well smeared out, I unleashed the vacuum cleaner on it, set the water to maximum, applied 3 rounds of mopping, and the vacuum cleaned it perfectly. Jam, ketchup, and mud, really? So it was totally fine. I messed up the vacuum test a bit again because I used flour, cocoa powder, soup pearls, and rice. I modeled different types of dirt with this, from very fine powder to soup pearls, which are a bit larger grains. These usually work well for vacuum tests. The only mistake I made, but it was a very serious one, was not letting the floor dry after mopping, and I poured flour and cocoa powder on it, which turned into a horribly sticky mess the poor vacuum couldn't handle. However, the vacuuming worked with the soup pearls, rice, cocoa powder, and the flour that didn't stick to the floor. It picked up everything perfectly. With the remaining stuff, the poor thing struggled, and I had to lend a hand because it was so stuck to the floor that I won't be doing that again, for sure. But the main thing is that the vacuuming was excellent. In the end, there was the price. Obviously, we're not talking about a cheap machine since it's a top-of-the-line vacuum. The current price with a coupon is 350,000 forints, which might seem crazy to some, those who haven't looked into how much a top vacuum costs. Because in Hungary, if you want to buy, say, a Roborock top vacuum, you will nearly hit 500,000, and there's still 150,000 forint difference between 500 and 350. So, looking at it from this perspective, 350,000 forints for a top vacuum cleaner, the best one currently available, is not a lot of money at all. Obviously, with 350,000 forints, you can buy a lot of other things too if you want, but if you're looking to get the best, most amazing, most perfect robot vacuum available on the market right now, then yes, for 350,000 forints. You'll get the Narwal Freo Z Ultra, and let that be the conclusion for this video. I can't say more. On YouTube, in our description, you'll find the link to the written article, the link for purchase, the coupon code to get it for 350,000 forints, and that's all I have to say. Let me go set up the vacuum and clean the house. You go subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and I'll be back with another test soon. Until then, take care and goodbye.